whatever the mind of a man conceives and believes, it can achieve it. Now it is your duty to believe in yourself, and we at Sourcing Classes are here to help you achieve your goal. Welcome to a series of economy related current affairs targeting prelims and mains 2021. Now let's start this video that covers the issues from 22nd July to 4th August. Financial sector. Now, financial sector consists of firms and institutions that provide financial services to the economy. Now, the major financial institutions that provide financial services are banks, NBFCs, mutual funds, insurance companies, chit funds, etc. Now, what is a corporate sector? Corporate sector is simply called business sector or business. It basically means all the companies that perform economic activity in a country except for the economic activities conducted by government or not-for-profit organization. Now, except for these two economic activities, the remaining economic activities conducted by any company or an individual comes under corporate sector. Now, corporate sector is dependent on financial sector for finances. Now, because of the lockdown or COVID pandemic, major of the corporate sector is looking at write-offs and bankruptcies. Now, what is a write-off? Write-off is an action wherein the value of asset is decreased. For example, I've taken a loan of 100 rupees from a bank. Now, when bank exhausts all the opportunities or all the possibilities of collecting that 100 rupees from me, then it will apply a write-off, which means it will say if you're not able to pay 100 rupees, then at least pay 40 rupees. Now, the 60 rupees that is waived off is called a write-off. Now, what is a bankruptcy? Bankruptcy is a legal process in which a person or a business entity say or declares that they are not in a position to repay the debt taken by them from the financial sector. Now, because of the lockdown, now all the companies are working at 50 to 70% of their operational capacity. Many companies or entities in this corporate sector are looking at write-offs and bankruptcies. Now, these bankruptcies are liabilities of an institution, and it will result in a corporate crisis. The last thing we want over and above corporate sector crisis is a financial sector crisis, because when the corporate sector crisis is painful to the economy, financial sector crisis is very dangerous. Now, it is up to the government to infuse liquidity or to supply cash to the financial sector to revive the economy. Now, the supply of money to the financial sector will automatically leads to the money infusion in corporate sector, thus reviving economic activities. Open Credit Enablement Network, OCEN. This OCEN is a credit protocol infrastructure. Now, what is credit protocol infrastructure? This is a technology in which credit protocol is given to the customers. Let me explain. This OCEN acts as a mediator between loan service providers and mainstream lenders. What are loan service providers? These are fintechs or financial technologies. Main service or mainstream lenders are banks, NBFCs, etc. Now, this OCEN is an infrastructure that mediates Fintech or financial technology in simple terms is the use of a software or algorithm to deliver financial technologies using a computer or a smartphone. Now the various services provided by fintech are money transfers, availing of credit, depositing a check through your smartphone, and in providing invest or gaining investments for a business startup, etc. Now Indian Software Products Industry Roundtable, iSpirit, is the one that developed the idea of OCEN by partnering with many banks like SBI, HDFC, ICICI, Axis Bank, etc. The main aim of this OCEN is to democratization of credit. What do you mean by democratization of credit? It basically means to provide credit to all the individuals in the economy, whether big or low. Now by using this credit infrastructure, many small micro enterprises or street vendors will be able to avail the credit easily using smartphones without the help of any another person. Let me give you a simple example. For example, if you have a small company which provides tax uploading facility, you have a small company and you have a website which provides tax uploading facility to your customers. Now, while using this facility or by providing this facility, you will also provide credit option on your website. Now, all your customers can easily avail this credit option without the necessity to go to a bank. Now, you will, in order to provide credit to your customers, you will partner with a bank, say SBI or ICICI, who will actually provide money to as a loan to the customers. All this process makes easy for many customers to avail credit, thus establishing or thus gaining democratization of credit. Currency swap. Swap means exchange. Currency swap agreement is currency exchange agreement between two friendly nations that have good bilateral trade relations between them. Now, let me explain this topic by taking an example. India and Japan. These two are friendly nations with a good amount of bilateral trade going on between them. Now, let's say a situation wherein India is in need of foreign exchange reserves. India is falling short of US dollars for making its imports. Now, why do you need US dollars for imports? Because internationally trade happens, most of the international trade happens in US dollars. So now, in this situation, India is in need of, say for example, 100 US dollars. Now, RBI will ask Central Bank of Japan to extend a loan of 100 US dollars, and in return India will give the Bank of Japan rupee equivalent. For example, today's exchange rate is $1 for 70 rupees. Now, in exchange for 100 US dollars from Japan, India will give 70 into 100, 7,000 rupees to Japan, and they will sign a predated exchange rate for a predetermined time period. Now, after this time period is over, India will return this 100 US dollars to Japan along with pre-agreed interest rates. Now, this is one scenario. We have another scenario in which currency swap agreement takes place. In this condition or in this scenario, India and Japan will exchange their local currencies without involving a third country currency. For example, India will give to Japan its rupees, and in return equivalent amount of Japanese yen is provided by Japan to India. Now India will use this Japanese yen to pay for Japanese imports, and Japan will use this rupees to pay for exports coming from India. Now this is the basic concept of currency swap agreement. The currency swap agreement's main benefit is low interest rates and improve in bilateral trade. Now, on November 15th, 2012, RBI signed a currency swap deal with SAARC nations. According to this deal, a $2 billion corpus is set up by RBI to make currency swap exchanges with these SAARC nations. Now, availing this facility, we extended a $400 million currency swap facility for Sri Lanka. Now, according to this agreement, these countries can avail this currency swap facility in either Indian rupees or US dollars or euros. Now, in multiple tranches, Sri Lanka will avail this $400 million of currency swap in either US dollars or euros or Indian rupees. Now, let me tell you what are the SAARC countries are. They are India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Maldives and Sri Lanka. Now, targeted infra push. In a meeting with Confederate of Indian Industries (CII), our Governor Mr. Shaktikant Das have identified 5 sectors that are capable of bolstering Indian economic activity, particularly after lockdown. They are infrastructure, farm, renewables, ICT and value supply chain. Now, what is value supply chain? It is a process in which value is added to the raw material and the finished product is sold in the market. For example, let's say a processing industry in which they acquire tomato as raw material and they add value to tomato by making it into a sauce and they sell it in the market. Here, value is added to the tomatoes and the final product is sold. The entire process of value addition is called value supply chain. Now, of all these 5 sectors, Mr. Das felt that infrastructure plays a major or dominant role in reviving Indian economy. He called for targeted infrastructure push by identifying the gaps in the infrastructure sector and by funding those and filling those gaps, we can improve the sector of infrastructure and thereby improving India's economy. He mooted for the idea of north-south, east-west corridor along with the development of high-speed railway, which would largely benefit forward and backward linkages. Now, this north-south, east-west corridor is the largest highway project in India that covers the 4 corners of the country, and this, along with the development of high-speed rails, will connect every possible part of India thus facilitating development of every other sector. Which includes forward and backward linkages. Now let me explain you what a forward and backward linkage is. In forward linkage, when a development of a particular industry helps in the development of its advanced industry, it comes under forward linkage. For example, setting up of a cement manufacturing plant leads to the improvement in construction sector. This is forward linkage. Now, what is backward linkage? If the development of particular industry helps in the development of its base industry, then it is called backward linkage. For example, setting up of a cold storage unit or a food processing unit helps in the development of agriculture sector. This means the setting up of that particular industry helps in the development of its base industry, which provides raw material to that particular industry. This is called backward linkages. Now, according to Mr. Das, the development in particular areas of infrastructure, particularly or especially this north, south, east, west corridor and high speed rail, will help in the development of every other sector in the economy like agriculture, construction, etc. GST. Goods and Services Tax. It is a type of indirect tax used in India on the supply of goods and services. Now, GST is implemented in 2017. It subsumed most of the indirect taxes levied by central and state governments. Here I am stressing indirect and not direct taxes. Though it is propagated as one nation and one tax structure, not all indirect taxes are subsumed under this GST. Now, the taxes that are left out of this GST purview are customs duty, stamps duty, road tax, entry tax, entertainment tax, toll, tax on liquor, etc. With the implementation of GST, many states felt that they are set to lose their revenue because the indirect taxes which are otherwise levied by states are subsumed under GST, and the GST collected is divided between center and the states, so states felt that they are set to lose their revenue. Now, in order to allay those fears, GST Council has formulated GST compensation cess. As we all know, there are different slab rates for GST application. They are 0%, 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. Now, according to this GST compensation cess, an additional cess is levied upon certain luxury and sin goods which are under 28% slab rate. Now, these luxury and sin goods include cigarettes, pan masala, tobacco, aerated drinks and cars, etc. Now, the additional cess that is levied on these goods will go into GST compensation cess. Now, state governments were promised or they were guaranteed a compensation of their lost revenues for a period of 5 years, and the compensation assumed a 14% annual growth rate. Let me explain you this. They have taken 2015-16 as the base year. For example, take a state R. The state R, I am just giving you an example, collects a revenue of 100 rupees in 2015-16. According to this formula, where they've assumed an annual growth rate of 14% in indirect tax revenue, the state will collect 114 rupees in 2016 and 17 through indirect taxes which are subsumed under GST. Now it will be around 130 rupees by 2017-18 with an increase of 14%. Now, according to this formula, if the states in 2015-16 collected 100 rupees from the indirect taxes which are now subsumed under GST, it would have collected 114 rupees in 2016-17 and around 130 rupees in 2017-18. Now, say for example, states collected only 100 rupees in this particular year from the GST, they lost around 30 rupees. Now, this 30 rupees will be compensated by the government from GST compensation cess. Let me explain you one more time. GST Council has formulated GST compensation cess, and an additional cess was supposed to levy on certain luxury and sin goods which are under 28% tax slab rate, and the states are compensated their lost revenue, not the entire but the lost revenue from the GST compensation cess for the period of 5 years. Now, because of the COVID, either people do not have the capacity to buy luxury or sin goods, or they do not want to spend their money on luxury goods. Either way, the collections from the collections to the GST compensation cess have fallen. In the first 2 fiscal of the GST implementation, there was a cess surplus, which means the collections from this additional cess were more than the compensation given to states. For example, I'm just taking an example here. The amount collected in the GST compensation cess, for example, is 100 rupees, and the compensation given to states, state here in this example, is 30 rupees. So there is a surplus of 70 rupees in this corpus. Now this happened for a continuous 2 years, but in this fiscal the consumer demand have fell down and the cess collection has fell down, so there was a reduced collection of cess. Now, according to GST Council, central government has to pay the compensation to the state's government every 2 months. Now, for this fiscal, because GST compensation collections are low and the overall GST collections are low, government has used this cess surplus to pay the compensation to states. Now, even this surplus was not enough to pay for the compensation. Central government has used its resources from the IGST, integrated GST. Now, center used its share of IGST to pay the compensation for the states. Now, in this scenario, states are fearing that with the low GST collections and the low GST compensation cess, how will the central government be able to pay compensation to them? Now, some experts have given a couple of advices to thwart or to stop this situation from happening. Number 1, they advised to reduce this time period of 5 to say 3 years. They've asked to reduce this 14% to a much lower figure, because to think logically, when the demand is low from the consumer side, when the demand for that particular goods is low, even without a GST implementation, states would have got lesser revenues from the imposition of indirect taxes to those particular goods and services. Now, let me explain you again. The demand is low, so the consumption of the goods and services is low. When the consumption is low, the taxes that are collected by the government by imposing taxes on them, the revenue for the government by imposing taxes on them would also be low. So there is no point in giving an ambitious 14% annual growth rate when the overall consumption and economic activity is low. So it is up to the GST Council to decide and come to a conclusion, to a solution. Now we need to wait and see if states will be able to accept this decision or not. Recovery shapes. Recovery shapes or recession shapes are used by economists to describe economic downfall and its recovery. There are few types of economic shapes in economic recovery. The first, V-shaped recovery. Now, in V-shaped recession, economy suffers for a sharp but brief period and followed by a sharp recovery. I'm taking GDP in y-axis and time period in x-axis. Now, with time, we could see a sharp decline in economic performance and a sharp recovery. This is V-shaped economic recovery. Now, U-shaped. This U-shaped recession is longer than V-shaped recession and has a clearly defined trough. GDP may shrink for several quarters and remain stagnant for a certain period of time, and it will slowly recover in U-shaped recession. The next being W-shaped recession. It is also known as double dip recession because the economy falls into recession and grows, falls again and grows again, gaining recovery. This is called down up recession. Now, the fourth is L-shaped recovery. L-shaped recession or depression occurs when an economy has severe recession. In this kind of economy, you can see economic downfall, but there is no subsequent recovery in the years to come. This leads, or this is called economic depression. Now, fifth case, also called pandemic economic recovery, is called K-shaped recession. In this kind of recession, you can see two different scenarios. In one scenario or in one part of society, you could see an L-shaped recovery, and in other part of society, you can see V-shaped recovery, thus forming roughly a K-shaped. Now, according to this article, there are certain sectors which contribute to V-shaped economic recovery. They are agriculture, construction, pharmaceuticals and FMCG. FMCG is fast moving consumer goods. These are non-durable and low cost goods like packaged goods, cosmetics, toiletries, candies, cosmetics, etc. Now, these are fast moving, and because of the low cost and easy availability of these goods, the demand for these goods is increasing even in lockdown period. Now, this article also identified certain stressed sectors in which there is a slow or no recovery at all. These include aviation, hotels and commercial vehicles, which show no signs of recovery. Now, why are these stressed sectors not showing any signs of recovery? This article identified a couple of reasons, which are prolonged mini lockdowns and uncertainty around the containment zones and the pandemic. Because of the uncertainty prevailing in the business economy, these particular sectors are not able to revive their economic activity like we have seen in the sectors like agriculture and FMCG. Credit guarantee. The emergency credit line guarantee scheme was rolled out in May 2020 by the central government as a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat package. Now, according to this scheme, additional loan facility is provided for MSME sector. Now, there are certain eligibility criteria for this MSME sectors or business to avail loan under this particular scheme. They are: the annual turnover of the MSMEs should be 100 crores with outstanding credit of up to 25 crores. And the MSMEs should be registered under GST. They should not be in any SMA2 or NPA account. Let me refresh your memory by telling you what SMA account is. SMA is special mention account. When a business entity or a person do not repay the loan or principal amount for a period between 61 to 90 days, then they will come under SMA2 account. And if it did not pay its interest or principal amount for a period of more than 90 days, then it will come under non-performing asset or NPA. Now, the MSMEs should not be in either SMA2 or NPA account to be eligible to avail this particular scheme. Now, the corpus of the scheme, that is set up was 41,600 crores. An additional 3 lakh crore rupees was given to this particular scheme to extend help to MSMEs. Now, this loan is collateral free. So, it is very beneficial for small sectors like MSME to revive their economic activities. So far, banks have approved 1.36 lakh crore worth of loans to 40 lakh MSME units under the scheme. Over 87,000 crore had already been disbursed. Now that there is a headroom available, central government has decided to extend this loan to larger firms and self-employed individuals who run businesses. Now, larger firms include, they are the enterprises with a turnover of about 25 crores and with an outstanding limit of outstanding loan of up to 50 crores. Now, self-employed professionals include doctors, lawyers and chartered accountants are eligible to apply loan or avail loan under the scheme, and self-employed people like taxi drivers and vendors, street vendors can be or can avail loan under the scheme. This emergency credit line guarantee scheme will provide much needed relief to stressed sectors by helping to sustain their employment and meet the liabilities of many MSMEs and self-employed individuals. With this, I'm winding up today's video. I hope you all liked it. I would like you to go back and make important notes of today's lecture, which will help you in your exams. Please stay tuned to Sourcing Classes for more interesting videos. This is Dr. Spurti signing off. Thank you. Happy studying.